And the room gets silent. I guess you can hear me. Good morning. My name is Troy Hellman. I'm acting as chair for Chairman Embry, who was unable to be here today. So I'll be acting as chair for today's meeting. Would you like to take the roll call, please?
Sure. Commissioner Cohen?
Present.
Commissioner Hellman? Here. Commissioner Pajic?
Present.
Commissioner Wayne?
Present.
Commissioner Williams?
Present.
There is a quorum, so let the record show. In addition to that, Commissioner Lane will be signing documents as a secretary today, as I'm normally the secretary. So we're kind of playing a little rotating chairs for today's meeting. So bear with us if you would. Next on the agenda, we have a couple new commissioners that we'd like to introduce.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. B.R. Lane is our new commissioner from up in the region. She's a native of Gary, where she led an independent strategic consulting practice since 2016. She holds a J.D. from Harvard Law School and an MBA from Fogelman School of Business and Economics at the University of Memphis. B.R. brings deep expertise in the gaming industry, grounded in senior leadership experience across both the private and public sector. In Las Vegas, she managed gaming regulatory compliance for the world's largest supplier of casino gaming machines and systems. BR also has leadership experience in public policy and public administration. She was previously appointed by Governor, we're still safe, she was previously appointed by Illinois Governor Bruce Rauner to lead one of the nation's largest public lottery organizations, where she managed a multi-billion-dollar budget negotiated determination of a failed private management agreement. She's also served as deputy mayor and chief of staff for the city of Gary, overseeing all city functions, policies, and projects, and later the executive director of the Gary-Chicago International Airport. BR was appointed to the commission by the governor May 26 through April 29. Welcome, BR.
Thank you.
Glad to have you. Our other new member is Eric Williams. Eric is Vice President and Senior Manager of Security Services Delivery for Old National Bank, headquartered in Evansville. Prior to joining Old National in 2014, Eric dedicated more than 25 years to public safety with the Vanderburgh County Sheriff's Office, where he was elected sheriff to serve 2 terms as Vanderburgh County Sheriff, beginning in 2007 and 2011. Eric is a graduate of Castle High School in Warwick County and holds a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration from the University of Southern Indiana. Deeply committed to civic leadership, Eric has served on numerous local nonprofit and government boards. His current community involvement includes serving as a board and commission member for the Evansville Vanderburgh County Public Library Board, the Evansville Vanderburgh Building Commission, the American Red Cross of Southwestern Indiana, and Vanderburgh County Fire Department Merit Commission. Eric was appointed to the commission May of 26 through April of 29. Welcome aboard, Eric.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you and welcome. I told them both that if you don't show up for a meeting, you get elected secretary, so they're here. And then you get vice chair because the chair's not here, so smart move. So,
You're welcome.
speaking of election of vice chair, we do have that opening, and so we need to chat about, are there any nominations or any thoughts about someone serving as vice chair?
I think you should do it, Troy.
I'm here.
Oh, for the meeting.
I'm just kidding. Let's,
Yeah?
Troy, would you do it if nominated?
yeah, I'll do it.
Okay. Then I nominate Troy.
Second.
Wow, it's been moved and seconded that I am the vice chair. How do I vote with that? Do I abstain from the vote or? Okay. All those in favor of me, Troy Hellman, as vice chair, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's exciting to serve here, and I welcome the opportunity. Okay, so now that means that I was secretary, so now we need a secretary to fill the void.
Well, with longstanding tradition, I'll nominate B.R. Lane for secretary.
Oh.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happens. You get
Okay.
nominated.
He's trying to get a little get back. Got it.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that Bear Lane serve as the secretary at her first meeting at the Indiana Gaming Commission. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, saying. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
The memo and minutes of the commissioners have been distributed. You had an opportunity to review them. Are there any additions or corrections to the memos or the minutes? If not, is there a motion to accept?
Move to accept minutes.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to accept the minutes. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, saying. Motion carries. Deputy Director Smith, please report on the executive director spot.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For a staff update, Dave Burston, the Assistant Director of Charity Gaming, joined the team on March 30th. Dave is a 41-year veteran of law enforcement, served in the military police in the United States Army, as a city police officer in Santa Monica, California, and concluded a 36-year career with the Indiana State Police in June of 2019. Upon his retirement from the state police, he held the rank of captain and was the chief public information officer. After retiring from the state police, Dave worked at the Indiana Department of Corrections from June of 2019 to March 26. Dave resigned from his position at the Department of Corrections to accept the position of Assistant Director of Charity Gaming in the Indiana Gaming Commission. Dave and his wife of 32 years, Beatrice, reside on the west side of Indianapolis and have one adult son, Conrad, who works in the IT industry in Lafayette. Baby, are you here? Stand up. Welcome aboard.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Second of all, my good friend and cherished friend, actually, Liz Sullivan, who is behind the scenes all the time. She's hiding over there. Liz is going to be retiring, and so this is her last commission meeting. Liz has been in the industry about 26 years. She's been catching up with me in age every year. I keep kidding her about that. But really, Liz and I had a long run together. She was at the Casino Association when I ended up there in 2002. And we had a great 13-year run together. And then ironically, I come back in this position and now she's leaving. So that gives you an idea how much she wanted to stick around with me. But Liz has been like my family. And Liz, we appreciate all you've done. And everybody's soon to find out all of the things that Liz was doing in the background of the agency that is going to be awakening for some folks. But anyway, Liz, thank you for all your years of service. I cherish you as a friend personally, and we'll still do those strawberry festivals every year. So thank you very much, and we wish you well in retirement.
I told her I just got to know her over the last few months, and I'm afraid I might have been the one that ran her off. But she assured me that wasn't the case, so thank you. Thanks for your service. You have anything else to add as far as
Yes, I'll continue with the
the
Executive
director
Director's
report?
report. Reinvestigations. Our background investigations team has completed the reinvestigations of the following: Bally's Interactive LLC, DBA Bally Bet, the United States Playing Card Company, GeoComply Solutions, United Tote Game Services. Confidential reports are included in your records, and Director Brown is here to answer any questions that you might have, but all the confidential information is in your packet. Exclusion update. Since our last meeting, 18 individuals have been added to our exclusion list, bringing the total to 1,166. And there is also more information available on our website. Waiver summary: all casinos relief was granted for progressive fund transfers. 68 IAC 2-6-31B3, 68 IAC 2-6-33A2, and Commission Memorandum of November 30, 2009. The moonlighting memorandum clarification provided that moonlighting days are increased from 15 to 90. Change the process where one level 2 licensee replaces another level 2 licensee from an approval process to a mere notification process. Clarification memorandum regarding a non-gaming level 3 license was provided. Changed the requirement for approval of social media streamers, replacing the IGC notification with local IGC agent notification, trying to keep it more local to the agents handling the business at the properties. Maristar Casino 24-hour gaming operation plan variance, reducing the number of surveillance officers during the drop to one designated individual. Belterra Casino and Blue Chip Casino removed the requirement for a second verifier of drop boxes during the soft count. 6-month test of this waiver before it becomes permanent statewide. 68 IAC 11-3-6C3. Approved a request to allow 2 properties to share one level 1 sports wagering manager. 68 IAC 27-2-18. Hoosier Park Casino and Horseshoe Indianapolis. Progressive surveillance coverage requirement was raised from 50,000 to 150,000. 68 IAC 12-1-5F6AB. NCAA, we granted a waiver to the requirement that supporting documents to an individual position be provided at least 5 days prior to the business meeting per 68 IAC 1-2-5-1C. And that's my report.
That concludes your report. Deputy Director Smith had oral surgery yesterday with numerous stitches, so I'm happy that he's able to present all this today, so thank you.
Middle it out.
And now will you administer the oath to all presenters, please?
Yes, sir. Anyone that's going to be testifying today, if you would please stand. Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you give will be the truth? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any old business to come before the commission? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. First, we have the adoption of rules regarding combat sports. Attorney Chris Neal will now present Resolution 2026-053. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners, Executive
Morning.
Staff. First, you have before you resolution involving the adoption of final administrative rules. Resolution 2026-53 adopts rules regulating the conduct of certain combat sports in Indiana, including bare knuckle fighting, martial arts, sparring, and professional wrestling. As you know, we've been operating under interim rules, which were promulgated in November of last year under Indiana Code Section 422.237.2. The rules before you today have all satisfied the requirements of Indiana's rule promulgation process. Specifically, the following steps have been completed leading up to today. Before the beginning of the rulemaking process, Commission staff sought input from industry stakeholders, including during the implementation of the interim rules. On March 19th of 2026, the Office of Management and Budget and State Budget Agency approved Commission staff's request to promulgate the rules. The Indiana Register posted the first notice of public comment period with the proposed rules on April 22nd of 2026, and Commission staff held a public hearing on May 26th of 2026. No comments were received during the comment period or at that hearing. Should this rulemaking be approved by the Commission, Commission staff will submit the rules to the Office of the Indiana Attorney General for approval, and then will submit to the Governor's Office for that approval. The final rules will then be submitted to the Legislative Services Agency for posting in the Indiana Register. Commission staff recommend approval of Resolution 2026-53, which will have the effect of adopting the final rules regarding the conduct of combat sports in Indiana, including bare knuckle fighting, martial arts, sparring, and professional wrestling. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on this resolution.
Any questions? Hearing none, is there a motion on Resolution 2026-053?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Thank you. Now, Attorney Neal will present Order 2026-054, which is a boxing and MMA matter.
And yes, you have before you Order 2026-54. This order involves a settlement agreement reached between Commission staff and mixed martial artist Cristobal Renteria, whereby Mr. Renteria agreed to pay a fine in lieu of further disciplinary action. Approving Order 2026-54 would have the effect of ratifying that settlement agreement entered between the Commission and Mr. Renteria. Thank you.
Any questions? Hearing none, is there a motion on order 2026-054?
Move to approve?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Next, Attorney Neal will now present license renewal orders on 2026-055 through 2026-061.
Thank you. Now you have before you Order 2026-055, and pursuant to Indiana Code Section 43378 and 68 IAC Section 228, a supplier's license must be renewed each year along with the payment of a $7,500 renewal fee. Each of the following licensees has submitted a timely request for renewal along with that required payment. That would be White Hat Gaming Incorporated, Konami Gaming Incorporated, Mask Publishing Incorporated, Every Payments Incorporated, Gaming Arts LLC, Ainsworth Game Technology Limited, United States Playing Card Company, Novomatic America Sales LLC, NRT Technology Corporation, Vici Properties Incorporated, Acres Manufacturing, and GeoComply Solutions Incorporated. Approving Order 2026-055 would have the effect of renewing the license of each of the respective licensees for a period of 1 year. And then next on the agenda, you have before you Orders 2026-056, 2026-057, and 2026-058 regarding the renewal of Ameristar East Chicago, Hard Rock Northern Indiana, and Horseshoe Hammond's casino owners license renewals, respectively. Ameristar, Hard Rock Northern Indiana, and Horseshoe Hammond have all filed the proper paperwork and paid their renewal fee. Previously, by Orders 2025-5, 2025-48, and 2025-49, the Commission had approved the written power of attorney for Ameristar, Hard Rock Northern Indiana, and Horseshoe Hammond, respectively. These approvals expire upon the renewal of the casino owner's license, and for that reason, all casinos must request renewal of the Commission's approval of the written power of attorney concurrently with the request for renewal, or present the Commission with a new written power of attorney, naming a new trustee in waiting. Ameristar, Hard Rock Northern Indiana, and Horseshoe Hammond have all stated their intent to maintain their existing trustees in waiting and have not presented the Commission with any modifications to their power of attorney. Approving Orders 2026-056, 2026-057, and 2026-058 would have the effect of renewing the license and approving the power of attorney for Ameristar, Hard Rock Northern Indiana, and Horseshoe Hammond for a period of 1 year. Next before you, you have Order 2026-059. Pursuant to Indiana Code Section 43881, a certificate of authority must be renewed each year along with the payment of a $50,000 renewal fee. Hard Rock Northern Indiana has submitted a timely request for renewal along with the required payment. Approving Order 2026-059 would have the effect of renewing Hard Rock Northern Indiana's certificate of authority for a period of 1 year. Now before you, you have Order 2026-060. Pursuant to Indiana Code Section 43866, a vendor's license must be renewed each year along with the payment of a $50,000 renewal fee. Each of the following licensees has submitted a timely request for renewal along with that required payment. That would be Seminole Hard Rock Digital LLC, doing business as Hard Rock Digital, and Penn Sports Interactive. Approving Order 2026-060 would have the effect of renewing the license of each of the respective licensees for a period of 1 year. And finally, you have before you Order 2026-061. Pursuant to Indiana Code Section 433-2415 and 68 IAC 26310, a paid fantasy sports operator license must be renewed each year along with the payment of a $5,000 renewal fee. Each of the following licensees has submitted a timely request for renewal along with that required payment. DK Crown Holdings Incorporated and FanDuel Incorporated. Approving Order 2026-061 would have the effect of renewing the license of each of the respective licensees for a period of 1 year. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions on these.
Any questions for Attorney Neal? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve Order 2026-055 through 2026-061?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Garth Brown will now present Order 2026-062. Garth is the Director of Background Investigations.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners and executive staff. You have before you Order 2026-62 regarding the permanent license for Parlay Play Fantasy Sports LLC. Parlay Play submitted a paid fantasy sports game operator application to the Commission in June of 2025 and was subsequently granted a temporary license in July 2025. Commission staff conducted the background and financial investigation on the applicant as necessary. Commission staff found no material derogatory information that would affect suitability for the applicant. The staff's final report has been included in your confidential meeting minute documents for your review. Approving Order 2026-62 would grant a permanent license for Parlay Play Fantasy Sports LLC. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about that.
Hearing no questions, is there a motion on Order 2026-062?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Now, the Assistant Director of Sports Wagering and Paid Fantasy Sports, Leah Foster, will present Order 2026-063. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners and executive staff. You have before you Order 2026-063, which would approve the sports wagering service provider license for Dimeline Trading Incorporated. The applicant has submitted the required application and has received the temporary license issued by the IGC. Commission staff conducted a background and financial investigation on the applicant and found no derogatory information that would affect the suitability of the applicant. Staff's final report is included in the confidential materials that were provided to you. Approving 2026-063 will grant a permanent license to Dimeline Trading, Inc. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Hearing no questions, is there a motion on Order 2026-063?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, the Assistant Director of Compliance for Sports Wagering, Thomas Biddle, will present disciplinary actions under Orders 2026-064 through 2026-072. Morning.
Good morning, Commissioners and executive staff. You have before you 9 settlement agreements concerning disciplinary action against casinos. Order 2026-064 is a settlement agreement with Ameristar Casino East Chicago, wherein the casino allowed an underage individual to access the casinos. Ameristar Casino East Chicago agreed to a monetary settlement of $1,500. Order 2026-065 is a settlement agreement with Bally's Evansville and includes 2 counts. In count 1, the casino violated the rules for live gaming device fills. In count 2, the casino allowed an underage individual to access the casino. Bally's Evansville agreed to a monetary settlement of $6,500. Order 2026-66 is a settlement agreement with Blue Chip Casino, wherein the casino violated the rules for live gaming device fills. Blue Chip Casino agreed to a monetary settlement of $1,000. Order 2026-067 is a settlement agreement with French Lick Resort Casino, wherein the casino violated the rules for issuing casino credit. French Lick Resort Casino agreed to a monetary settlement of $1,000. Order 2026-068 is a settlement agreement with Horseshoe Indianapolis and includes 3 counts. In count 1, the casino violated the rules for live gaming device fills. In count 2, the casino allowed an underage individual access to the casino. In count 3, the casino violated the rules for electronic gaming devices. Horseshoe Indianapolis agreed to a monetary settlement of $3,500. Order 2026-069 is a settlement agreement with Rising Star Casino Resort, wherein the casino on 4 occasions violated the rules for licensing. Rising Star Casino Resort agreed to a monetary settlement of $2,000. Order 2026-070 is a settlement agreement with Harrah's Hoosier Park, where in the casino allowed an underage individual access to the casino. Harz Hoosier Park agreed to a monetary settlement of $1,500. Order 2026-071 is a settlement agreement with Hollywood Casino Lawrenceburg, wherein the casino violated the rules for electronic gaming devices. Hollywood Casino Lawrenceburg agreed to a monetary settlement of $500. Order 2026-072 is a settlement agreement with Hard Rock Casino Northern Indiana. Includes 2 counts. In count 1, the casino violated the rules for live gaming device fills. In count 2, the casino allowed an underage individual access to the casino. Hard Rock Casino Northern Indiana agreed to a monetary settlement of $3,000. Relevant details for each settlement agreement have been provided in your meeting materials. Each settlement agreement will also be available on the Commission's website following the meeting. Mr. Chair, this concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Biddle? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept orders 2026-064 through 2026-072?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Zachary Wilson, who will now present order 2026-073 regarding a financing request.
Morning, Commissioners, Executive
Counselor.
Staff. Commissioners, you have before you order 2026-73 concerning a request received from casino licensee Penn Entertainment Incorporated for approval of a proposed financing transaction. In addition to seeking permission to act on the proposed financing transaction, Penn also requested a waiver of the 2-meeting requirement in accordance with the Commission's authority contained in 68 IAC 1-2-13. Pursuant to 68 IAC 1 or IAC 5-3, casino licensees, applicants, and affiliates seeking a debt transaction at or above $1 million must seek approval of the debt transaction from the Commission. The Commission reviews these transactions to analyze the financial health of the entity and ensure that the entity will not lease, hypothecate, or borrow or loan against a license in the transaction. Pursuant to 68 IAC 5-3-2B, the regular procedure for acquiring approval of a debt transaction requires Commission consideration of the debt transaction at 2 consecutive business meetings, which is referred to as the 2-meeting requirement. The Commission may waive the administrative requirement pursuant to its authority in 68 IAC 1-2-13 when it is determined the rule is impractical or burdensome, the waiver is in the best interests of the public and the gaming industry, and the purpose of the rule can be fulfilled by alternative means. Confidential details of proposed financial transaction, as well as the Commission staff's analysis, were provided to the Commissioners in your confidential materials. Approving Order 2026-73 would have the effect of waiving the 2-meeting requirement and approving Penn's requested debt transaction subject to the following conditions. First, the terms articulated in the financial documents do not materially differ from the terms that were presented in writing for approval. Second, the term of the final documents do not violate IAC 433 or 435. Third, Penn must provide the Commission with a legal opinion demonstrating compliance with IAC 433 and 435. And finally, Penn must close on the respective financial transactions by certain dates. If you have any questions, I'm happy to address them.
Any questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept order 2026-073?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now regarding occupational licenses, Attorney Aaron Kellen will now present orders 2026-074 through 2026-082. Morning.
Good morning. As previously stated, you have for your consideration orders 2026 through 074 through 2026-082. These orders concern settlement agreements between Commission staff and occupational licensees. In lieu of disciplinary action, Commission staff offered each of these licensees a settlement agreement. that would have them agree to an unpaid voluntary relinquishment of their occupational license for a period of time during a regularly scheduled working day, with no vacation or other paid time off being used. Each of the licensees has agreed to the terms of the settlement agreement. Detailed information regarding each of these matters is contained in the confidential materials that have been provided to the Commission. The Commission approving 2026-074 through 2026-082 would have the effect of ratifying these agreements with the occupational licensees. Therefore, your approval is requested.
Any questions of Attorney Kellum? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept Order 2026-074 through 2026-082?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, on to the next order of business. We received a letter from the NCAA, National Collegiate Athletic Association, to submit a request that the commission prohibit all individual player proposition bets on college athletes. So today we will be hearing presentations from the NCAA as well as the sports wagering industry. So at this time, I'd like to call, I believe, Tim Buckley, Senior Vice President of External Affairs, Clint Hagenbrock, Managing Director of Enterprise Risk Management, Mark Hicks, Managing Director Enforcement, and they'll give a presentation regarding the NCAA's request to prohibit college prop bets for individual players. Thank you. And I'd just like to note before we get started, for both presentations, we'll have a limit of 30 minutes. So not that you'll take that long, but
I
if
hope
you,
not.
yeah, but you're welcome to if you'd like. So thank you.
Appreciate it. I appreciate the time. Thank you, commissioners, for having us. We are here to talk about the petition we submitted to the commission. I worked in state government before I came to the NCAA for about 8 years, so I understand the important role that bodies such as this have. Laws get passed. You all do the work to carry out the important details. Now, the NCAA supports legalized sports betting. We have very good relationships with sports books, with operators, casinos. We also have very good relationships with regulators such as yourselves. We're not here to roll that back. We're here to explain why Indiana should join 19 other states in banning a very specific type of bet, a bet that makes up a very small portion of sportsbooks' portfolios. And those are bets on the individual performances of college athletes. We're here, our presentation will go into a couple of issues that we have encountered around prop bets. Those are specifically evidence of manipulation of those bets, harassment that comes as a result of those bets. And that harassment falls on not only student athletes, but the referees and officials who carry out our games. The NCAA is the only league in the country to respond to the rise in betting the way we do. And one thing that we do very well is collect a lot of research and data about our student athletes and their attitudes towards betting. We'll talk about what we found there. We'll also talk about the harassment that I mentioned that athletes are receiving as a result of these bets. And we'll talk about what we've observed in other states that are moving to ban these bets. In addition to the slides, we'll move through really quickly, I promise. We submitted 3 letters from Butler, Indiana University, and Purdue, written by coaches, athletics department staff, supporting the NCAA's position to ban these prop bets. We're proud to be headquartered here in the state of Indiana. We're proud to have some of our finest institutions at the D1 level operating here in Indiana. We love all of our schools, but we love these ones the most, obviously. And we're also happy to bring lots of fantastic events like the Men's Final Four that was just here to the state. Like I mentioned, we have extensive data collected from all 556,000 student athletes competing across the country. And we know for a fact that almost half of D1's men's basketball players have reported some really terrible stuff being directed their way on social media abuse. And we know, because we screen for this type of activity, that it's related to betting. And we know that it's quite often related to their prop bets. Oftentimes, a play, a move by a single athlete that has no outcome on no bearing on the outcome of a game can change a prop bet. And we know that athletes are being harassed, not only in person in the stands, but also online by people believed to have a betting interest on that. We submitted those letters, but there's also a tremendous amount of evidence out there in the public record about student athletes, particularly from folks here in Indiana, talking about how their experience is being harassed around these bets. And the Big Ten Student Athlete Advisory Group, which is a group of athletes who inform the commission's business, penned a letter supporting the NCAA's position to ban these prop bets. A little bit of local flavor here from Purdue, some on-the-record commentary about the need to root out this type of behavior. It's all in your materials for review later. We also, like I said earlier, we do more than just about any other league in the country to respond to the rise of sports betting. We are doing everything in our power to educate student athletes to make sure they don't get into trouble in the first place. And with me is one of my colleagues who I think could go in a little bit more detail on this slide for us. Thanks, Glenn.
Yeah, good morning. Great to be with you all today. Again, my name is Clint Hunkebrow, and I'm our Managing Director of Enterprise Risk. So I end up leading a lot of our programs and initiatives that we're doing to reduce risk and harm, particularly from a betting standpoint for our student athletes. So as Tim already alluded to, we believe that we have the largest educational program in the world towards athletes related to gambling harm. Really, since PASPA was overturned, we've educated in person over 100,000 student athletes through a partnership we have with Epic Global Solutions. We've also supplemented that with e-learning, and we've done 25,000 plus student athletes have went through our e-learning modules. We've also sort of bought our own ad space, if you will, along our championships to run campaigns like Draw the Line to encourage angry bettors not to take out their hate and abuse and harassment on our student athletes. We also run what we believe is the largest integrity program in sport in the world. We monitor over 23,000 collegiate contests with betting markets per year. We screen over 20,000 officials, and we enjoy, thanks to my colleague Mark's great work, a very extensive network of law enforcement, gaming operators, gaming commissions, campus administrators, integrity vendors that make up this ecosystem that we enjoy of our integrity program. As Tim alluded to, we've also now for several years been partnering with a company called Signify around our championships that specializes in using artificial intelligence to identify abuse on different social media platforms directed at our student athletes, our coaches, and our officials. And so we've seen, related to just March Madness specific, thousands of harassing messages directed at our athletes that clearly have a nexus to prop bets. They talk about the student athletes' individual performance. Why couldn't you get me 5 more points or 2 more rebounds or another assist? You cost me $5,000 for this parlay that I was trying to hit, or whatever it may be. And that is a pretty innocuous example. It gets a lot uglier than that, where we've seen death threats, things that we have to report to law enforcement and add security around our events. So it's certainly a huge challenge that's having a very negative impact on our student athletes and their experience. So thanks for your time. I'll turn it back over to Tim.
So for the past 2 years, we've been lobbying states to ban these bets, and we've had a good amount of success in doing it, actually. Since we've started our efforts, a number of states have taken action, and now we're up to 19 of the 38 jurisdictions that have legal sports betting have now moved to ban these bets. I worked on the getting sports betting legalized in the state of Massachusetts when I worked for the executive branch of state government there. And just to reiterate, we understand the importance of regulating this activity, but we also understand the importance of drawing bright lines around what type of bets should be offered and what shouldn't. This is some example of some of the additional steps states have taken to crack down on harassment as well. So we went over some of the reasons why we believe these issues should be banned, but I think Mark has a couple other things to take care of. Mark, why don't you explain what you do for the NCAA too?
Thanks, Tim, and thanks for having us here today. As an individual that oversees integrity for the NCAA, I've seen a number of these issues come to fruition. Unfortunately, some of the issues that we are would like to curtail. And while we applaud the restrictions of in-game betting, I think the pre-game betting is particularly dangerous. And what we've seen from a integrity perspective, and I'll give a couple of examples. We've seen scenarios where individuals, student athletes, will compare notes, text back and forth about their prop bets pre-game, and then they'll leverage that information and then pass that information on to a proxy bettor who goes in and places a bet in a retail location. It was in a different jurisdiction, but it's a real story. We've seen individuals, high-profile players that end up in the NFL, again, a different jurisdiction, but admitting to wagering on their own prop bets, their own performance, while they're playing in the SEC. And most recently, we've had a high-profile issue here in the state of Indiana, where an individual admitted to betting on prop bets of players, teammates. From a student-athlete standpoint, student-athlete welfare perspective, we think having targets on the backs of student athletes is especially concerning when you have player performance at the stake, at stake. We see that it's, they're certainly unwilling, it's unnecessary, and in many ways, they're often student athletes who are not even old enough to bet in Indiana. But yet people can wager on their own performance. And I think that adds another layer of pressure. And as they've demonstrated, we've seen harassment that follows, along those lines. So, like other peer jurisdictions, we would just ask that you grant our petition here today and prohibit player props on college athletics.
And I'll wrap it up here. We know banning prop bets is by no means a silver bullet to these issues of harassment and manipulation. But we believe banning props will go a long way to preventing that stuff from happening in the first place. Now, you're also going to hear from the industry on this. And again, we work well with our operator partners. We appreciate the role that they play in helping us root out some of this behavior. But on this issue, we disagree. They're going to argue that if these bets are banned, the betting will just go on and happen on the black market. But that argument we believe is faulty for two reasons. First, you could make that argument about essentially any limitation on bets offered, or any really limitation on betting. For example, the state of Indiana only permits those 21 years and older to bet. Why not argue that 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds should be able to bet? They're equally likely to end up on a black market site. But we know there must be limits. And second, there is no evidence to suggest that there are thriving black markets in the states where these bets have been banned for several years now. I mentioned my experience in Massachusetts. When we legalized betting there a couple of years ago now, we never permitted these types of bets being offered. Massachusetts has a thriving sports betting industry, and there is no evidence to suggest that there's a thriving black market with prop bets in that state. Student athletes are telling us they don't want their every move to become a micro bet. States across the country are moving in this direction. The NCAA agrees with those athletes who have spoken up on this issue. We agree with the states that have moved in this direction. We believe prop bets on college athletes is just one of those places where regulators should be drawing the line. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. We ask questions. Any of the commissioners have any questions to ask the presenters?
I do.
Okay.
Is it Tim?
Yes, Tim.
Thank you. Have there been any criminal prosecutions initiated against anyone for harassment or intimidation based on threats players have received?
We've referred some of the information that we see, the threats that we've monitored, to law enforcement. We actually had to hire uniformed police officers at one of our events. We were so concerned about players' safety. I don't know if any of those cases have led to prosecution, but that partner that we work with, as part of their process, we work with them to refer that stuff to law enforcement, and we have multiple times.
A second question, if these bets were prohibited by this commission, couldn't someone just go to Michigan or Kentucky and place the same bets?
Yeah, no, obviously, going state by state is a challenge. We are making this ask of every state that has legal betting. And like I said earlier, we've made a lot of progress. Several states have moved in this direction. And now over half of the jurisdictions that offer legal betting do ban these bets. We'd like to see them all do it.
Thank you.
I have a question. Do you have any statistics on the states that have passed this ban as far as the results and if it has made a difference with the students and the harassment?
I don't believe we have data to that to show that an athlete who is, in state A that does not have these bets receives less harassment. Part of the problem is bettors nationwide can bet on games happening anywhere, anytime. So that's why we do unfortunately need to go state by state.
Okay.
I have a question. The other commissioner asked about if you have any examples of criminal charges. Do you have examples, of any times when a student athlete altered their performance intentionally to manipulate?
Yeah. I'll let Mark talk a little bit about that. He heads up our investigations on this front.
Yeah, not in this jurisdiction, but we have seen a situation where that did occur. The manipulation of their performance. So they basically agreed to underperform, pass that information from on their prop bet to an individual who goes into a retail establishment and then places that bet. My understanding, I think I'm free to share this right now, is that is currently in the law enforcement process. That was actually discovered by us and through the member schools, so it was not discovered through the operator. Fortunately, we do have a good relationship with the operator. We're able to use part of that information to assist, but now it's being handled by state authorities. So,
on that, I know we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
But you said a case. Is there one situation that you know of, or?
That particular case I'm referring to is probably the most obvious one about prop bets. That individual was also involved in another issue with comparing prop bets. We did see with the cases out of Eastern District of PA, the underperformance of athletes, and that also crosses into passing inside information. So it's also a little bit different there. But some of that involved individual prop bets.
Question. To the extent that you can share, can you walk us through the process that you may have used to get to this complete ban? Were there other alternatives that you considered before getting to complete ban?
You want to take that?
We looked at laws that are on the books across the country to try to figure out what we believe were the best practices. So banning prop bets is one of several things that we are advocating for. Most of what we're advocating for requires a change of law, mandating that operators share information about bettors who have found to harass people, for example, across state lines. Or increasing penalties for those found to have harassed individuals like athletes and referees. So the banning of prop bets is one of a number of things that we're advocating for. But I'm not sure of what the alternative would be to somehow limit some individual props on college athletes. And again, 19 states have moved in this direction, and it has not had a major impact in any of those states.
So you did consider other things.
So yeah, to answer your question directly, no, this is the policy that we've proposed. Not aware of an alternative.
Okay.
Welcome.
I have one more question.
Sure.
Have there been any incidents on college campuses in Indiana with student athletes being bullied in person or propositioned in person by people interested in these types of bets?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any cases happening in the state of Indiana, but there was actually a very interesting story by a former athlete who actually talked about his experience as a kicker when he missed a very significant point. Pat McAfee, who broadcasts out of the state of Indiana, I highly recommend you go back and listen to this, and we can give you this. He basically offered testimony during his show where he talked about how he missed this pivotal kick. And he talked about how horrible his experience was, that he had to go back to class, he had to go back to the dining hall and sit right next to people who were muttering threats to him about that performance. He talked about how he got messages, paper handwritten messages, threatening his safety at his apartment on campus. I don't have an example of an IU school, but it's not hard to imagine the difference between professional athletes and college athletes who are in class together, moving around a campus together with some of their most, unfortunately, passionate fans in a bad way.
Follow-up question to that.
Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah.
My understanding is oftentimes professional athletes have personal security that is funded, have threat management that's funded.
Yeah.
Is that same available to student athletes individually?
It would be if they wanted to procure such a service. Our institutions, vary widely in the resources that they have on their athletic departments. Even if you just look at the state of Indiana, you have some athletic departments that generate over $100 million in revenue and have world-class facilities and services. Other schools at the D1 level, even right here, don't have the means to do so, and we believe it's that distinction between what a college athlete is doing, 98% of which never go on to play professionally. 98% of our athletes are going to go professional in something else other than sports, and that's the difference, in our opinion, between individual prop bets on pros and college athletes.
Any further questions? Thank you very much.
for your
We
time.
appreciate your presentation. Next on the agenda will be folks on behalf of the sports wagering industry. Scott Ward, partner at Oric on behalf of the Sports Betting Alliance. Lou Trombetta, Director of Government Relations, FanDuel. David Foppert. I'm sorry if I'm butchering these names, so I apologize. Vice President, Global Compliance and Risk, DraftKings, and Sarah Tate, Senior Vice President and Head of Legal, Regulated Industries, Fanatics Betting and Gaming. They will now give a presentation regarding the prop bet industry.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. My name is Scott Ward. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Oric, Harrington, Sutcliffe. I'm here today on behalf of my client, the Sports Betting Alliance. The Sports Betting Alliance is a coalition of leading regulated online sports books that includes Bet365, BetMGM, DraftKings, FanDuel, Fanatics Betting and Gaming. Nationally, we have about 90% of the online sports betting market. Let me start first and foremost with a very clear statement. We share the concerns of the NCAA with player harassment, and we are committed as regulated entities here in the state of Indiana to work with you, the Commission, as well as the NCAA to directly address the issue of harassment. However, banning prop bets does not eliminate the harm. It simply eliminates visibility, driving bettors to unregulated markets where prop bets are already readily available. And that deprives this Commission of important data and insight critical to ensuring the integrity of the sports betting market here in the state. Looking at their actual request, the request comes under statutory language that was passed as part of the original bill that legalized sports betting in the state of Indiana. Of note, the Sports Betting Alliance, members of the Sports Betting Alliance should say, supported inclusion of that language in the sports betting bill here in the state of Indiana. The statute directs the Commission to prohibit particular wagers upon the, quote, demonstration of good cause, end quote, from the relevant sports governing body that there is a, quote, credible threat to the integrity of sports wagering, end quote. That's the statutory language. That language was specifically chosen by the legislature. And your critical evaluation is if the underlying evidence shows a threat to the integrity of the sports betting market in Indiana, which is distinguished from the integrity of sports. However, they are linked, and my colleagues will discuss why transparency is so important to the integrity of sports and why keeping popular bets in the regulated market is the leading factor to rooting out bad actors. And again, athlete harassment in any form is deplorable and must be addressed. But it is not good cause to show a threat to the integrity of sports wagering as the statute requires. There are more direct ways for the commission to address athlete harassment, which my colleagues will go into. And those do not remove the very tools needed to ensure the integrity of sports wagering and the integrity of the underlying sport. Going high level here, the legal market is working. Regulated sportsbooks are licensed. We are audited. We are answerable to this commission. We provide wager level visibility into every bet, as well as industry-leading consumer protections, including age verification and responsible gaming tools. And the regulated market works directly with our sports governing body partners, including the NCAA and law enforcement, to root out bad actors that only we can detect because we're actually seeing all the bets being made. And that's why a prop bet ban is such a bad idea. It does not eliminate harassment. It just eliminates critical visibility and data used by this commission and the NCAA to identify integrity concerns. These prop bets will continue, just not under your watchful eye. And while the regulated market has done a good job of converting bettors to the legal market, because we offer the bets that they want to make, like prop bets on NCAA events, there is still a robust illegal market. And in fact, the background in this slide, if you look at, are 140 names of illegal online casinos and sports books that have received cease and desist letters from one or more states that have regulated online sports betting. Each one of these sites continue to operate in the state of Indiana today and would be the direct beneficiaries of the NCAA's request to you to give them a monopoly on collegiate prop bets by removing competition from regulated sites and your oversight. Before I turn over to my colleagues, the most recent state to review this request from the NCAA was Missouri. They unanimously declined to proceed with the request. They did that in January of this year. Notable, they did that at the same time that there was a significant amount of press about integrity in sport related to some basketball bets that the FBI had looked into, bets that the regulated market caught and flagged. They still decided that they had not shown good cause to eliminate collegiate prop bets. This follows Wyoming, who also made that similar decision last year. And the reason why is because the legal market is working. And I'll turn over to my colleagues.
Hi, good morning. My name is Louis Trombetta. Thank you for allowing us to have the opportunity to speak to you today. I'm going to talk to the slides here about how important volume and knowing what people are betting on is to the sports betting industry. But before I do that, I also have experience in state government. I'm a former regulator, gaming regulator. I spent about 10 years as an attorney in the state of Florida and ultimately was the executive director of the Gaming Commission in the state of Florida for a number of years. And this is actually my first time appearing in front of a gaming commission on the other side. So I wanted to take a minute just to kind of thank you all for listening to us, to going through this process. And if I can, I'm going to try to appeal to you as regulators. When I had issues like this, I would talk to staff about how do we get through this decision, right? No matter what we do here, we're going to make somebody unhappy. What do we do? What are our guiding principles? We'd always look to our mission. What was our mission? And it was pretty entertaining. I looked up your mission yesterday. I'm going to get it wrong, but it was very similar to the mission we had in Florida. I think yours is ensuring the honesty and integrity in gaming through regulation, licensing, and enforcement. Ours was very similar. It was preserving and protecting the integrity through those three things as well. So I'm going to ask you the same thing I would ask my staff in prepping for this exact meeting. Does what we're being asked to do hit any of those boxes? Are we preserving integrity? Are we ensuring integrity in making this decision? I'm going to answer it for you too. You're not. This goes the other way. I think you need to have volume, which is what I'm going to talk about of next, to ensure that your balance of risk, which is really what the regulator does, right? You're trying to allow this activity to occur in the state so that the state can maximize its revenue from it. The citizens in the state can conduct the activity in a way that they want, right? They like this, and they do it in a safe way. Frankly, sorry, it's a little bit high. As Scott said, we do believe that athlete harassment is an important subject that we do care about. Athletes shouldn't be being harassed, but eliminating college prop bets is not the solution for that problem. Other states have done that. There's also other states that have looked to law to change the law to, Mrs. Lane, well, your question about alternatives. There are alternatives. You can strengthen harassment laws. You can create harassment laws. One of the last things I did in Florida was draft legislation that was going to address this exact issue. And the solution wasn't to tell our sports betting operator that you can't offer that bet. It was, hey, we need to support law enforcement to be able to respond to this activity, because it's not a sports betting problem. It's a social media, and it's a problem with the people that are making these threats. So now going back to sort of why volume matters. Volume allows the sports betting industry to identify suspicious activity and to respond to it appropriately. Then my next colleague is going to talk about how those responses happen. But eliminating an activity or a market such as this would just eliminate that visibility that really is important for the operators who work with the regulators, with law enforcement, with the NCAA, with the leagues, to share this information, because we all want a safe product that we know that the result is real. We want integrity in that product. So we want to work with you to that end. And we think the best way to do that is to maintain this market so that it's available and that it's visible. And I'm happy to address any questions after the fact. Thank you for the time.
Good morning. Good afternoon. It's like 12:01. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. My name is David Foppert, and I'm a vice president at DraftKings. I wanted to speak to you about really the three pillars on the right: monitoring and detection, regulator reporting, and enforcement partnership. We've talked a lot about the ecosystem, and truly that's what it is. Operators, regulators, sport governing bodies, banking partners, social media companies. It is truly an ecosystem. And I would say that regulated operators are the most data-rich members and integrity monitors in that ecosystem. Our data is so critical, right? When you think about how much we evaluate and understand about our customers, from capturing KYC at time of account opening to geolocation, device information, all the money that can come on and off of a platform, we understand every account it's coming from and where it is going to, as well as every wager that's happening down to the second. That data is critical and leads to all of our monitoring and detection tools that we have as operators. And we have dedicated teams and staff full time that this is what they're focused on, this is what they do. And as we detect unusual or suspicious activity, we directly work with the IGC. We work with our regulators. We report it to our monitoring services such as IC360 or IBIA. We work with sport governing bodies and directly cooperate. And they are a great partner to us and really do appreciate the partnership and value what we have built over the past few years as we've continued to mature this space. And from there, it is picked up, and law enforcement will engage and work directly with the operators. We're responsive to subpoenas. I've sat down and worked with the FBI directly to walk through our data, to explain to them patterns of unusual activity and why this is suspicious and how to interpret it. And ultimately, it is the system that is working, right? So many of the stories you read in the newspaper regarding integrity or manipulation or match fixing, those derive from the reporting that operators do in the regulated space. Every dollar that comes on to a regulated operator's platform is monitored, tracked, and acted on. Every dollar in the illegal market goes into the darkness and no one can see. So the question is not whether prop betting will happen in Indiana. It will. The question is really, should it be inside a regulated market where we can police it? Or should it sit outside it where no one can? Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, commissioners and executive staff. Sarah Tate from Fanatics. Social media, not sports betting, is the primary driver of harassment, and harassment is the crux of the NCAA's argument, not the integrity of our sports wagering activity. The rise and normalization of social media has made players more accessible. This is especially true of collegiate athletes who live on or near campus, and they engage heavily with social media. Social media inherently brings risks of harassment, stalking, and other problematic behaviors. And as all my colleagues have said, we find this deplorable. The line between collegiate and professional athletics has also been blurred over the years with compensation agreements, increased exposure, which is shifting fans' expectations. So college sports fans will remain on social media regardless of any regulatory actions. So harassment is better addressed through targeted measures, not wager bans. Legislation or enforcement actions aimed directly at the perpetrators of harassment are more effective and appropriately tailored. As Scott mentioned, Ohio and West Virginia have adopted laws directly addressing harassment of athletes. Wyoming has addressed the issue through regulation. Targeted approaches to address the root problem without undermining the wagering markets is exactly what needs to be done. And the SBA stands against athlete harassment, and we would support measures to remove any person engaged in such behavior from the Indiana marketplace. The NCAA's own data shows that existing tools are working. The NCAA has collaborated with the Signify Group, and there's been meaningful results. During the 2025 NCAA tournament, over 1 million posts were analyzed. Over 50,000 posts were flagged, and 10 matters were referred to law enforcement. Signify tracked all of the data, and there was a 23% reduction in sports betting related abuse and threats in 2025. So these proactive steps have served as a deterrent and for would-be bad actors. And speaking of bad actors, about an hour ago, we were actually able to release and share that Fanatics is partnering with Signify as well as IC360 to implement the Bad Actor Program. This Bad Actor Program will leverage Signify's threat matrix and Prohibet to identify persons who are harassing and threatening athletes, officials, and coaches. The program will monitor public-facing activity across all social media channels. This approach will ensure that both direct and indirect abuses, including commentary and replies, threads, reposts, and larger fan discourse, is captured and assessed. IC360 and Signify will deliver comprehensive monitoring, investigation, reporting to safeguard athletes and coaches from online abuse, threats, and harassment. Exactly what the NCAA is asking you guys to do. Fanatics, in turn, will be notified of these bad actors, and we can take action to remove these bad actors from our platform. We want to hold these bettors accountable. There's no place for this behavior on our platform. And we are the first sportsbook to be implementing this, but we are hoping that others follow our lead. So tools such as this are available and in use and are a much more appropriate remedy than what the NCAA is seeking. Scott?
Thank you. In closing, let me say once again, the anecdotal stories that you heard from the NCAA today, as well as in the written materials, are deplorable, and we need to address each of them head on. But they are anecdotal. You asked today whether there was any evidence that banning prop bets improved the harassment issue in states that have done it, and the answer you got was no, there's not. And then even the Signify data, which we do think is working and helping. When you look at the data there, they looked at 1 million social media posts. They flagged just over 50,000 of those to look at more. They identified in the report that the NCAA put out, they identified just over 3,100 posts that were harassment related to betting. That is 0.3%, 1/3 of 1% of all social media posts that they looked at, 1 million. 3,100 out of 1 million. 3,100 is too many. It's way too many. And we should address that. But for purposes of today, respectfully, we request the commission decline the NCAA's request. They simply have not met the good cause standard to show that prop bets are an integrity risk to sports betting here in the state. Again, we stand ready to work with you and the NCAA to work against athlete harassment. But as you've heard from my colleagues, there's other ways to do it that work directly against harassment, instead of taking away something that adults in the state of Indiana can do quite easily, the vast majority of them clearly based on the data, and then you have the data to track that, and we make sure that we address integrity of sports. We'd be happy to take any questions, and thank you for your time.
Any questions?
I just have one. How long have these types of pre-game propositional bets been legal in Indiana?
I believe the law was passed in 2019, went live in around that 2020. So about 6 years. Of course, Indiana does not allow, via the sports wagering catalog that you all issued, doesn't allow in-game prop bets, but does allow pre-game. You've heard this number 19. Almost all of those have banned some sort of collegiate prop bet statutorily. Very few of them have done it via reg. In fact, I'm only aware of one, Oregon, that sort of bans all of them via reg. And so this is something that legislatures have looked at and have decided. I think it's also interesting, to your point, that a lot of these states have been around for 6 years. My home state of Tennessee does not allow collegiate prop bets. That we went live in 2020 there. And so that doesn't seem to have affected harassment. There's a lot of states that haven't allowed this since it's been in inception, but harassment is a problem. And so I think that the data shows that these prop bet bans don't really address the direct issue. We'd like to address the direct issue.
Is there data about harassment of student athletes in states where propositional betting is banned?
I'm not aware of that. And I think you asked the question of the NCAA, and they also are not aware of that because it goes across state lines. In fact, there was reference to an Eastern District of Pennsylvania case in the previous testimony. We believe that relates to Temple. There's a case related to a Temple player. There's no collegiate prop bets allowed in the state of Pennsylvania. So, there really is no direct correlation between collegiate prop bets being allowed or not and harassment or, frankly, integrity in a particular state because of the nature of sports betting that goes across state lines.
I had a question also. You'd mentioned why volume matters, the volume of bets. Does that mean the more bets that are placed, the safer the student athletes are, the less they'll be harassed?
Thank you for the question. I don't believe there's any evidence to show they're correlated, really. I think volume matters from a different perspective was what I was trying to get. Volume matters in that it allows the sports betting operators to have a better idea of what the market is saying. So if you're taking, let's say like today, USA plays Turkey today. There's going to be lots of volume on this game. So the lines initially get set by, again, using FanDuel as an example. When the World Cup schedule came out, we have a team, and we split the team up and said, hey, you're our USA guy, you're our Brazil guy, you got to know that team, you have to come up with that initial line, and we offer some player props too. So, if this player is going to, get a shot on net. As we get closer to game time, there's more wagers come in, and volumes essentially, it's kind of like another word for handle. It's just more specific to a market type. So we believe that as we get closer to game time, as the volume increases, we have a truer representation of what to expect from the game, both on who's going to win, who's not, but also on player props. It affects the same thing. And it allows us to do a few things. One, we can better predict and forecast what's going to happen in the game. But two, if there's oddities or there's anomalies, it allows us to go to and actually, Dave, do you want to come up and just talk about what we do next on that? I think that'd be helpful too.
Yeah, so, and it's a great question. But really from a risk management perspective and a risk monitoring perspective, volume is very helpful because at the end of the day, you're looking for anomalous behavior. And in order to identify what is anomalous or what's an outlier, right? What's the weird looking thing? We have to understand what's normal looking. So the greater population you have and the more wagers there are of legitimate, normal, expected wagers, a model can quickly differentiate and identify where those outliers could be. So as it was shared, right, there's not a correlation between necessarily the volume and the athlete, but rather from a market perspective or how we manage risk. When there's more data for us to work with, we're a data-driven company, as are most online sportsbook operators. We're able to make more informed decisions and identify more quickly things that could be potentially suspicious or irregular.
It sounds like you're arguing that the more bets, the safer the athletes are. Because you have more data, so you can keep them safer. That sounds like the argument you're trying to make.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, with more data, we are able to be more informed and ultimately provide better support in terms of reporting to our regulators or governing sports bodies as we identify unusual behavior.
I just wanted to add 2 quick points to the good question. When the legislature did authorize sports betting in the state of Indiana, the public policy objective of capturing the black market was advanced, right? And kind of to the question of volume, ensuring that the regulated market is competitive with the black market was one of the ways that we capture the black market, right? So you want to make sure that what is being offered legally is competitive with what is being offered illegally. So people go to the regulated market. And just also, as I'm sure you're aware, all wagers, right, are submitted and reviewed and approved by commission staff, right? So before, it's not like we're just, willy-nilly saying, oh, I think we'll go ahead and decide to offer this wager. It is reviewed, vetted by staff, and staff has already taken measures to put some restrictions in place surrounding, prop bets and wagering on collegiate sports in general, right? So collegiate sports wagering is limited to Division I sports. And then, as mentioned earlier, in-play collegiate player props are already prohibited in the state of Indiana.
How does the predictive market fit into this as far as ratios to betting and on especially props, but all of it, I suppose?
It's a good question, and it's one that is continually evolving. I can tell you just from my preparation for this meeting, unfortunately, we're sitting here in June. There's not a lot of college sports going on, but I did look for any prediction markets that offered NCAA baseball, because that was really the only thing happening when we were preparing for this. And I didn't find any prop bets on prediction markets on NCAA baseball. Having said that, I think that, prop bets have prediction markets have really only been offering sports in a major way for just over a year. And I suspect you're going to see an explosion of this come this fall with college football. That is my prediction. I don't have any data to prove that, but I suspect you'll start seeing it much more. Of course, those prediction markets are not regulated by you or anybody right now other than the federal government. But I do think you're going to start seeing collegiate prop type bets in prediction markets come this fall.
What kind of tools do you have or available to you if you do see anomalies with things going on? I heard you talk about you reported to the NCAA or to the gaming commission or whatever, but do you have the authority to, you see a bad actor and you go, you're out, we're cutting you off? And how many times does that happen out of the 3,100, out of the million?
Yeah, so, and we have, as I mentioned before, operators can have dedicated rules and algorithms and models just to identify those anomalous wagers or potential activity that's really indicative of match fixing or integrity. Oftentimes, the account is immediately frozen, right? They're not going to be able to withdraw those funds. We will report it to the regulators. Quickly, we'll start partnering with law enforcement. We'll kick the customer out very quickly, but that's generally in coordination with law enforcement, because we're very sensitive we don't want to either tip off or create an issue for law enforcement in their own investigation, right? If they're investigating a matter and they may ask, it's actually a process that we work closely with the IGC on, where we will quickly request what we call a keep open letter, where we will say, if you would like, we can keep this account open so as not to disrupt your investigation, because we don't want to kill the trail, for lack of a better term. But that's something we're working just hand in hand with law enforcement on. But certainly there are times where we will immediately freeze the account. You're not allowed to withdraw. We'll kick them off our platform. And as I mentioned, we'd work with law enforcement and regulators to help support them in their outcomes.
Thank you.
Which regulators did you work with? Have you worked with? What other states have you worked with?
Just about all of them.
Everybody?
So in addition to state gaming regulators, we also most often will be filing SARs that go to the Treasury Department at a federal level. So then there's kind of this combination of state gaming regulators. We'll work with federal law enforcement, Department of Justice. I think the term was used a few times, but it really is that ecosystem.
Question, please. Do you monitor, I don't know how to best ask this question, but student athlete conduct? Suppose you have a player, let's say basketball, they average 25 points a game, and someone makes a bet that they're only going to score 2 points, or however you all do it. That's extraordinarily low. Would that be something you flag like this as an anomaly?
Yeah. So very close to how it would work. I think in your example, we wouldn't, if someone averaged say 25 points, we wouldn't let it go down to that 2022. However, what we would see and what we have, once again, models and detection for, and the types of anomalies we would look for is, hey, this a lot of handle is being placed on a player who's never had it before, or a big shift in the line prior to the event occurring. Right, because generally and I think that's played out in investigations that are now public, but a player will collude with other bad actors and say, I'm going to, perform poorly in the beginning of this game or in the game entirely. And then that information is dispersed amongst criminal groups or a few other bad actors who then try to get money on the platform. So we will see that quickly, and we can and we have in the past, we've actually just dropped the market entirely. That's another control we're able to do, where if we see something that's strange or unusual, we will just pull down that market entirely and not allow wagering on it.
Who would you report that to other than yourself?
So that would go to the integrity monitoring services. So IC360, IBIA. We would report that and share that with the sports governing body, whether it be the NCAA or professional sports league, and then we would also send that to the IGC.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I actually have a question for the representatives from NCAA. If we could, is it possible to go back to slide number 2 from the sports wagering? The discussion about that, just so everyone has it in front of them, is whether or not there's a demonstration of good cause for this. Could you explain, if you think there is, why there is good cause for this to be prohibited?
Sure. There's good cause because our head of investigations talked about a case where he found that people are manipulating prop bets. There's good cause for this because we know for a fact college athletes are different than professional athletes. They are far more susceptible to the harassment and harm that we all want to root out. And there's good cause to ban this because we should all listen to the student athletes when they're telling us they don't want this target on their back. They don't want their every move to be a micro bet. And I said from the beginning that this was not a silver bullet. But if we can reduce the instances in which bettors from across the nation can put that target on their back, we think that's the right thing to do.
Any other questions?
Do you have another one? A follow-up?
So, do you believe that this prop betting does represent a credible threat to the integrity of sports wagering?
You heard about one case in which we know for a fact individuals were manipulating their individual performances to place bets on their props. We also are radically different than professionals in our volume of games and total athletes. So while it's good to hear that the industry, and we do appreciate this, monitor for those variations in the amount that someone may bet on someone's performance that they've never really bet on before. But you got to keep in mind, if someone's only betting $100, $200 on someone's prop, that may not move the line in any real meaningful way. That may not trip the detection process that the industry has in place. But that could be the difference between a student athlete getting into serious trouble, breaking a law, violating one of our rules that renders them permanently ineligible. We should be taking those opportunities away at every possible turn, we believe. Thanks.
Seems like, can I ask a question of my former regulator here? Putting on your regulator hat, help me separate, which you guys seem to be trying to do, harassment of a student athlete from an integral industry. How are you separating that? If a bad actor knows, and we're assuming that anyone who is bad enough to harass a student athlete will go pretty far. If bad actors know that we as regulators would do nothing if they were bold enough to approach student athletes, wouldn't that impact our ability to regulate and maintain an integral gaming environment?
Sure. And thank you for asking me to put that hat on. I still enjoy wearing it. I get the concern.
Mm-hmm.
I think the position that I believe is the correct position is that the causal link doesn't exist. In other words, the bad actor that's harassing an athlete is a bad actor that we do not want. Now, regulator hat
None
off
of
too.
us do.
Right.
None of
We
us
don't want any of that happening.
Okay.
The issue is that the solution that has been proposed won't prevent that harm, I guess. And what it
At
does,
all?
I don't think there's any evidence to support that it will.
At all, just evidence aside, let's
Sure.
just put now our common sense hats on.
Sure. Even if it does, let's assume that
Okay.
it will prevent some. The goal of the regulator, right, is to balance risk.
Compliance and commerce, yes.
And I think in that situation, I think the scales tip too much here because of the value of the transparency of this activity. It helps. There's more benefit in knowing what's happening in college prop betting for Division I athletes than there is to put it underground. From the regulator perspective, from what we're trying to do as safeguards of this industry too, I think there's just more risk in saying we're not going to allow bets on this than to allow bets on it and try to respond to the bad actors or to encourage, the legislature to do something to enhance law enforcement's ability to do something about this. I think that's kind of where I fall in the situation, and that's both regulator hat and FanDuel hat.
Okay.
I have a question, if you don't mind. Do you have any evidence with respect to states that have banned prop betting that since they're not regulating it in their states, people that can legally bet in other states are taking advantage of the fact that those states aren't regulating? So for example, if we have a big IU Purdue game and we ban it here, but there's people all over the United States where it's not legal betting on IU Purdue.
Yeah.
Is it your position that since we're not regulating it, we're not going to capture any anomalies? Or would a FanDuel that's legally operating in another state, wouldn't they still be able to let Indiana know there's a problem if you flagged an anomaly, if that makes any sense?
And so that's sort of the goal of these independent integrity monitors. I think we being FanDuel would be able to be aware. We detect an anomaly if there was one in another state. The issue is we wouldn't really have visibility into Indiana, and it'd be harder for us to work with the regulators, with law enforcement here, because we don't have the data from Indiana, right? We could potentially say, Better A, who's an Indiana resident, came over to a different state, made this wager, and now he's back there. Go get him. But it does make it more difficult to protect Indiana, to protect the citizens in Indiana if you prohibit this type of activity.
Sorry, just for the specific example, if I was born and raised in Kentucky, had an account in Kentucky, not to pick on Kentucky, but and was living in Kentucky and placed that wager that was suspicious involving a prop bet for the IU Purdue game, we would, as an operator, report that to the Kentucky regulatory body because that's where the activity occurred and it's under their jurisdiction. We would also report it to the monitoring services, which would have visibility to IGC. But from a reporting, because that was part of your question, we would actually be reporting it to the jurisdiction in which it occurred.
And if I may, I just wanted to kind of put a bow on Commissioner Cohen's and Lane's questions. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it goes back to the request, right, which was made by the NCAA. And the statutory language says a demonstration of good cause. And, the regulation that interprets that statute says a credible threat to the integrity, and this is why it's italicized, to sports wagering, right? Not to sports. And while they are intertwined, the mandate of the Indiana Gaming Commission is concerning the integrity of sports wagering activities, right? Not to sports. You don't regulate the NCAA. You do not oversee them, right? And so I just think that's really important to distinguish. We all agree. Everybody, I think, in this room agrees that harassment is deplorable and we're taking active steps to address it. But at the end of the day, my position and belief is that the NCAA's request has not demonstrated good cause that demonstrates a credible threat.
How does it not impact sports wagering, though? How does it not impact the bad actors' thoughts, intent, and behavior as it relates to sports wagering, which we are accountable for? We agree with that. But if you know, bad actor, that you can do this and you're not regulated, then you can scheme around sports wagering in a way to conduct that behavior. And that is a failure maybe on our part, right? So help me understand that, how you're separating those.
Sure. I would propose that we've demonstrated that we are taking steps to preserve that integrity, right?
No, the sports versus sports wagering distinction that you made. I'm trying to follow your logic.
So for example, it's when this was all being passed, people would say like, oh, we want you to ban college sports and everything. And it was often said like, well, the legislature makes the public policy decision to allow drinking at the age of 21, right? But it's not the ATC's job to go to Purdue University and say, underage drinking, right? Like that's not the ATC's job. And so, I'm sorry, I probably did not do a good job of articulating it, but I think the point I'm trying to make is I believe the SBA, we have demonstrated that there are tools in place to address the integrity of the sports wagering. And I think the NCAA's request is more broadly speaking to the integrity of sports, right? And to the athletes. And I think we do have tools that we've talked about that are combating the threats of harassment and other things. So yes, it is an ecosystem and everything, but we're your licensees. We're the ones who are subject to your regulation. College athletes are not subject to your regulation, right? And so I think that's the point we're trying to make is that, yes, we agree harassment's awful. We have steps to take it. We are doing things to uphold the very important issue of integrity of sports wagering. And I don't think that the NCAA's request has demonstrated any credible threat with respect to Indiana and Indiana's integrity of sports wagering, to establish that threat and to meet that statutory threshold.
So assuming that we agree with that position, whose job is it? If you're allowed to segregate sports and sports wagering, and it's not our job, right, to regulate that part of it, even though harassment is bad, whose job? Have you talked to anyone in that ecosystem whose job it is to manage that or oversee the?
Well, I think the NCAA is doing great work, right? Like they've talked about all of the efforts that they're doing to educate their student athletes.
Saying it's not enough. Is that, if I understand you correctly?
Yes, despite our best efforts. Yes.
Yeah, and we're working with law enforcement. And
so
and
you
other
are
people.
working with law enforcement?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, we were, as I think David articulated, work closely with law enforcement and all of that.
So an example like the Pat McAfee example of a student athlete who is feeling pressure from students that have bet on his performance in an upcoming game, or is feeling pressure from how his performance in a previous game that might impact the next game. Is that sort of the position that is not a credible threat to integrity of sports wagering, as that student is feeling that pressure, receiving threats, receiving potentially coercion from others on campus with him?
Real quickly, taking a step back, because we are slicing this thin, and I appreciate that. I'm a lawyer, I love doing it too. We're looking at the statutory and regulatory definition related to when a sports governing body asks you as the commissioner to remove a bet from the catalog. That is the very narrow thing we're looking at today. So we're not suggesting you have no interest in the integrity of sport, or you should not be interested in those things. There's a much bigger statute that you all deal with. What we're saying is that the statute is written by the legislature, and then as written in regulation by this commission, says you are concerned about the integrity of sports wagering. Is a college athlete worried about missing a field goal or potentially taking bribes, missing a field goal? We certainly have numerous anecdotal stories of that occurring, mostly because we've caught it because the regulated market has seen that. Is that a threat to the integrity of sports and sports wagering? Yes, it is. And we should be concerned about that. But our message to you is that is being taken care of. First of all, we caught it. Secondly, you have lots of procedures in place to look over us and to view our data, to make sure that we're doing those. We report those things to the integrity monitors, who report them to you. And thirdly, this is really about athlete harassment, and we do not feel that athlete harassment rises to the level of good cause to the integrity of sports wagering. Athlete harassment is a very important issue, and we want to deal with that. But as you've heard from my colleagues, there are other ways to do that that we think directly goes at athlete harassment. Other states are doing this. Other commissions are passing regulations on athlete harassment. Ohio did one. If you were found, and that commission is investigating these things, individuals, if you're found to have been harassing athletes, you will be banned from the market. We support that, and we would encourage you to do that as well. But banning prop bets, if you take it to its logical conclusion, you ban a prop bet, people will be less harassed. That's true. Well, if you ban all betting, people would be less harassed. That's probably also true. But so we're just suggesting you that you have to weigh it, and we think that the good that's happening in the market today versus the data showing whether it affects harassment or not is unclear. When there's other things you can do to address harassment directly, and that's what we'd encourage you to do.
Any other questions?
I don't know who to ask it of, but you know that we're being asked to ban all pregame regulated proposition betting for NCAA Division I athletes, right? What I'm curious about is actually the scope. I mean, any harassment's bad, it's always wrong, should never be tolerated. But of the however many Division I athletes are there, say last year in the year 2025, how many of those had a prop bet on a system available to them? Is it 1 in every 10 athletes, 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000? I mean, I don't know. I want to know what the scope of the problem is. That could potentially fall prey to harassment based on a failed prop bet.
You're not going to be surprised when I tell you I don't know that number. But what I can tell you is that the regulated market our bets have to be approved by you. We can't offer bets that you all as a commission don't approve to us. And my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I didn't look at it before today, is that we're allowed to offer pregame prop bets on Division I sports only. And then we really only offer those on football, basketball, baseball, women's and men's basketball, and then I think lacrosse. But probably not even prop bets on lacrosse. And so it's not, you're right, there are millions of athletes who are going to go pro in something else. I was one of those too. I'm not doing this. But we only offer the bets that people want. We don't offer random bets because there's just no reason for us to do that. Other sites might do that who aren't regulated to you. So, but that's the universe you're talking about, those sports.
So would it be a safe analogy that, and I'm not one of those people that places those bets, but that the prop bets are offered on generally the high profile, high performing, very notable athletes?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Let me, in deference, let me say sports, the athletes in those sports. And it may not be an athlete that you and I have heard of, but they're playing Division I football.
Within their realm.
Correct.
I mean, I don't follow
That's right.
NCAA basketball, so I don't know.
Yep, I agree.
Are you able to entertain bets on individual Division I sports, wrestling, swimming, tennis?
I don't know if that's part of the catalog or not. I apologize. You would have to have approved us being able to do that. It could be. I can't tell you yes or no on that.
I know your colleague CV wanted to say something or
please
have more information.
And I just was going to reiterate a lot of what he said, which is effectively, I think the NCAA shared a slide of, was it 100,000 Division I athletes or 100,000 plus?
There are 556,000 total student athletes participating right now in NCAA sports. About a third of those would be in D1, slightly under a third.
So, and thank you for that. A small fraction are who will actually have markets available for them on prop bets. To your point, you know, the quarterback for IU, probably you'd be able to place a wager on how many touchdowns they may throw over under 1.5. You would very, very unlikely for you to place a wager on how many tackles the defensive back is going to have or some other player, right? There's generally a few marquee players. If it's, say, a national championship game, it'll be more broad. But for most college sports, such as college football, college basketball, it's a small market that we would offer simply because of the demand and where we would be able to make that market.
Any other questions? All right. Hearing none. I think everyone in here agrees that any harassment of any athlete is wrong. And I wish it would be zero, but in the world we live in, it's not. And I think both sides agree that they want to try to work hard to prevent it and have teeth to be able to do it. So again, back to our task today is to decide if the NCAA has shown good cause and proposition bets should be prohibited, or they've shown good or have not shown good cause and that they should not be prohibited. That's the two motions that we need to look at today. So,
Mr. Chairman, it's difficult for me to very quickly make a decision either way. Both sides have presented a lot of information that I would like to have some time to consider myself. I'd like to actually file a motion to table this until the next scheduled meeting in October to give myself and other commissioners time to consider in more detail.
I would second that motion. There's a delicate balance between the interests of the NCAA and the Sports Betting Alliance. And I don't think it would be prudent, and I won't speak for our two new commissioners, but they're new commissioners, that this is their first meeting. I think we shouldn't make a decision in a rush. That's my position, so I'll second that motion.
well, it's been moved and seconded. So any discussion?
Just a comment. Thank you, Scott. Yes, I think this is pretty weighty to make a decision, for me anyway, at this point. And I tried to do some research and, in preparation, I note that you brought up Missouri a couple of times. And in my research, I didn't find that Missouri outright agreed with you. I found that their legislative structure was different from ours. They had 7 days that they had to make a decision, and they didn't feel that they had enough information at that point to institute the ban. Not that they didn't agree with it. That's very different. And so I would like to talk to some other regulators to see on both sides. I was hoping that we might have gotten some data from them or based on your experience with them to this point, but we don't have any. And I understand I've been on that side before, private. Now I'm this side and have been in public service before. We have a pretty broad stakeholder group. We have parents. We're Hoosiers first, right? This is not a pay board. We're doing this as a civic duty, an obligation that we willingly accept. So we have to think about those other things. And I just don't know that it's responsible or fair, frankly. We're talking about students. One instance of harassment is a big deal. And I think we all agree, right? We want a safe and prosperous ecosystem. And I don't know yet how to do that, how to fairly balance compliance and commerce in this particular instance today. So I will be supporting the motion to give us some more time.
Any further discussion? All right, then the motion is to table this motion from the NCAA to the September 24th, 2026 meeting. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. I think it's good for us to be able to work through this and talk about this on both sides. And you can see it's pretty heavy for us too. We want to make the right decisions. So we'll think about it and do more research, and hopefully we can get this resolved in September. From our standpoint, how does this work from representatives being here? How would you envision this for the September meeting, or will you get with them and let them know?
I think it will depend on if you're interested in them reappearing. to
Presenting
ask
again?
Questions, or if you feel comfortable moving forward without that. And I can organize when you.
So we can figure that out on our own after we're off the record here. Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, I don't know if I need to make this to move for this, but I would not object based on all the arguments made today if we allotted both parties at the September meeting to have a brief response after they've had time to digest each other's positions before we make our, before we vote on the matter.
Sounds like we don't need a motion for that. If that's what we want, then I think we could request that. And hopefully there'd be a positive response to do that, so.
Yeah, I concur. I think we asked some questions potentially that neither side was anticipating, and this is an opportunity for them to go back and do some research themselves and bring that forward.
I would just offer to the members of the public who are viewing, it's my understanding with the open door law, just so you all understand, we don't go back there like a jury in a courtroom and talk about this. We're not allowed to talk as a group. I believe we can speak so long as we don't have a majority, like I could speak to BR about it. So we just need some time individually to absorb everything we heard today and to balance all the factors to see whether or not the NCAA met their requirement of good cause.
Okay. Great comments, good discussion. Thanks for letting me meddle through my first meeting as the, wow.
Imagine how we feel.
It's your fault. Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Go ahead, make a comment.
I would just like to thank our staff publicly for stepping up in Joe's absence. Our leaders taking a leave, and our staff has really stepped up. And I want to especially thank Natalie. She's been carrying a huge load, and just know that she's really picked up the big load for Joe, and she has to carry me too, so that's a lot of weight. So anyway, I just wanted to publicly thank our staff for stepping up. Hope Joe's doing well and he's back soon, and certainly Natalie deserves some kudos for all of her efforts.
Agreed. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie.
And good luck on your retirement. All right, if there's no further discussion, that concludes our agenda for today's meeting. As I mentioned earlier, our next meeting was scheduled for September 24th, 2026. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Thanks for your time all.
Thank you.